Deshaun Watson, kind of hiding under the radar a little bit. Went 3-3 as a Browns starter last season, threw 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But September marks the start of Watson's first full season in Cleveland. And one of his teammates says he's seen encouraging signs this offseason. Greg Newsome said, quote, "I didn't expect him to come straight back and be Superman, but Watson is back to his old self," close quote. His old self led the league in passing touchdowns before. His old self has been to the playoffs, but his old self ain't won that many playoff games. Joy, what would constitute a successful season for Deshaun Watson?
Anything less than a Super Bowl appearance is a failure for Deshaun Watson.
Y'all fan her? She hot right now. Yeah, I fan her. It's about to get hot. It's about to get hot.
Or we could do this also. We could not mention any expectations for Jalen Hurts because he's been paid.
All right.
We could not mention any expectations for Dak because he's been paid. No expectations for Lamar Jackson because he's been paid. It's cool. We just can't mention anyone else's money when we talk about what the expectations for their performances should be, because Deshaun Watson got $230 million guaranteed.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Guaranteed?
Every owner in the league, not named the Haslams, and set the standard for every other contract. And if he doesn't do well, all the other owners will use his contract and his situation as an example of why they're not going to give their franchise quarterback $230 million guaranteed. So if it's not make it to the Super Bowl, why else did you give him $230 million guaranteed? Now, to be clear, I don't think they're anywhere near the Super Bowl. I don't think they're near the AFC Championship game. I don't think the Browns are going to win their division. But that should be the standard based off of what he's paid, or we all have to stop talking about everyone else's money. Can't have it both ways. Now, last year we gave him a pass, as we should have, because he didn't come back until week 12. Nobody had any kind of expectation that he was going to come in after having that much time off and just run the table. That wasn't going to happen, and that's fine. Now he's had a whole offseason. That team is loaded with talent. He's got talent at every position. He's got a former coach of the year. And he's been paid $230 million guaranteed. If you have the most guaranteed money of anybody at your position and you reset the market the way that you did, how can the standard not be, not what will actually happen, not what we realistically think should happen, but what should the standard be for someone who is paid $230 million guaranteed at the quarterback position, if not Super Bowl?
It's a passionate take.
It is.
Phenomenal take. I don't agree with it, but I love listening to it. Success for me would be winning a playoff game. You have to equal your personal best individually, and you have to equal your personal best as a team. I always think about times, again, y'all know my favorite sport is track and field. If you switch coaches, even if you're the best ever, your first year it might not be great. But what is a sign of success? Am I as good as I have ever been? As good as Deshaun has ever been is winning one playoff game. That was with Houston. As good as the Browns has ever been in the last 23 years is winning one playoff game. That was with Baker. So success to me is being as good as you have ever been. Can you equal your personal best? Because now we can grow from it. Usually you have to take a step back to go a couple steps forward. Last year, the Browns took a step back. Now the question is, can they catapult themselves forward? I believe if he wins a playoff game, then he's equaling his individual personal best, equaling his collective personal best. From there, you can grow. There's a phenomenal point to be had about how much money Deshaun Watson is getting guaranteed. I do believe that is a brilliant point. But I also suggest he's not the highest paid quarterback this year. So he's not even going to be the highest paid quarterback over the last 5 years. There will be no time period where Deshaun Watson will have earned the most amount of money. Now, he's making a lot of money, so he does need to have success. But I'm always using how much money are you making and what are the situation that you're in, who's your coach, all of those things to categorize what would be successful for Deshaun. You have to win, in my mind, a playoff game. You don't win a playoff game, but you make it to the playoffs, they're indifferent. You don't make it to the playoffs, they're upset. You win a playoff game, you get bounced divisional, yeah. You win anything more than that, they're ecstatic. I mean, if the Browns win 2 playoff games, good Lord, I can't tell you how happy they would be. Remember, I was drafted to Cleveland, so I know those fan base. Quite literally.
They might actually just give themselves a banner.
Quite literally, you have to go to 1989. They lost to the Denver Broncos in the AFC Championship game. That's the last time they went to a championship game, and I think it's the only time they went to a championship game.
I'll say this, and that was some great takes from both of you guys. I mean, Jory came out real hot with the whole, like fire. I'll say this, for success for me for Deshaun Watson, it would be winning the division, right? That's a tough division. AFC North is a tough division. 3 winning teams last year, right? And the only one that wasn't a winning team was them. Last year, I don't take that as a real year for him, right? Week 12, we know how good he was. He was terrible last year. He was trying to get his feet back underneath him. But if you look at all the stats, right? So first of all, 1989 is the last time they won their division, right? So you pay him $230 million, right? You got these players around him. The playoffs, anything can happen, right? I mean, you say the Super Bowl is hard to do, but hey, they pay him a lot of money. He should get there eventually. I'm going to say for this year going forward, win your division. The last man had a winning record. It's been like the last, 15 years, one time. The last 15 years.
Baker Mayfield.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, for us to really look at, like, success for him and the team is like, yo, go win your division. You haven't done it in so long. We haven't seen the Browns have a winning season once in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
I don't know. They've been in one playoff game in, 28 years?
Yeah.
Come on. Like all these numbers we're talking about is like, yo, it's like, damn.
It's crazy.
Like, wow. They've been bad. They've been bad.
Yeah.
So, for me, Deshaun, win your division.
I'm going to split the difference. I do believe that there has to be some individual success there for him to justify the money, and there has to be team success. And to answer Joy's question about, like, why did they pay him all that money? Because they're the Cleveland Browns, and that has multiple levels. Like, the Cleveland Browns would spend that much guaranteed money to go get a quarterback, but also because of the Cleveland Browns quarterback history. And they saw him on the market, and they were like, finally, we can get a quarterback that we know is legit, right? So let's pay whatever we have to in order to get that. I think he's got to go for at least 4,000 yards passing. That's not his high. I think 4,800 is his high, but that would be a big step in the right direction. 4-to-1 TD to assist, or TD to turnover. Interception ratio. That to me is again, not top of the line, but it would be a step in the right direction. And then winning the division, that's going to be a brutal division. So for me, it's getting to the playoffs and ideally winning a playoff game. Because let's also keep in mind, they did this because they were able to make the playoffs with Baker Mayfield.
Correct.
But that wasn't enough. Like, they thought, we're better than that. And a little bit like Denver going to get Russell Wilson, this is just the piece that is missing to make us as good as we think we can be. Did they think they were Super Bowl contenders?
They did.
Prior? Okay.
With Baker, when you have Stefanski, you went 11-5. You beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, 4 turnovers on offense, if I'm not mistaken, in that game. Yeah. The only reason you go get Deshaun is because you think all we need is a quarterback. And they would be right to have thought that. But that was a different AFC.
Right.
Like, that was before Joe Burrow had proven who he was.
So are we just doing what the expectations should be based off of us being, like, super realistic and nice and, like, what the Browns historically are and, like, the division is hard and it's the AFC? Or are we keeping it real? Because I just don't want to hear about what the expectations are for anyone else. Because we're making all these concessions for what the expectations should be, but when we will immediately bring up what else someone else has been paid, what their situations are and their expectations based off the talent that they have around them, and then what the team has done for them. We're probably going to do it this week, right? So I'm just saying it's fine if doing exactly what Baker Mayfield did is the expectation for someone that you're paying $230 million for. I'm sorry, I can't take that seriously. Like, Baker Mayfield won a playoff game for the Browns within the last 5 years. You got to do better than that.
Acknowledging who the Cleveland Browns have been and what a rock that is to move it, I think is keeping it real.
No, I think Joy makes a great point. I would just take it the next layer in the sense that even when the Browns won that playoff game with Baker Mayfield, Burrow was not yet Burrow. Allen was not yet peak Allen. The Dolphins were the laughingstock of everything. The Patriots, was Tom Brady still there, Shady? You would have to remind me, and you might be able to remind me. Was still there. Like, the AFC was not this AFC. So to win a playoff game now, Joy, and you know this, Shady, we all know this, is you'd have to beat Rodgers, Tua, and the Dolphins, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson. For Deshaun to win a playoff game, Burrow, he knocking off a dog.
Well, aren't you compensated appropriately for those expectations? Like, how does anyone in the league have more pressure at that position than someone who got $230 million guaranteed? We talk about what people's expectations are all the time after they got paid.
All of those players I would assume, are making as much, if not more, than Deshaun
Come on now. We know the guaranteed money is the point and the sticking point for all these contracts. Let's not be silly.
But we know quarterbacks' contracts, unless you suck, are guaranteed.
Yeah.
Mahomes is going to see as much as all 450, if not more. Rodgers is going to see all of
Then why do they argue for it in the contract?
They do. Most quarterbacks is good. They get all their bread. But it's the reason why they be fighting for it. I want $230 million guaranteed. I don't want to even play around with nothing else.
Why do they argue for it in the contract? If we're going to get it, why are we going to argue for it?
Why I said division is a success for me is because when you play a team twice a year, 9 times out of 10, or I don't say 9 times, but majority of the time, you may split, right? And I think I'm so familiar with the Steelers. I'm so familiar with the Bengals. Even though they're good, I'm familiar with them. And if you're a good team, you should be able to, if you can beat them and win that division, that'd be excellent. But we're arguing about winning a playoff game. They only won one playoff in the last 28 years.
Yeah, and Baker Mayfield did it. So if you're Deshaun Watson, you're one of the quarterbacks.
Not easier, but better.
It means more. It means
more. Right. AFC gonna be hard though. Anyway, I mean.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.